Kia ora te whānau, ko Andrew Doubleday aho. It's good to be able to welcome you again to this little reflection today. And it's for Sunday the 31st of July. Well, the year's going quickly, isn't it? And it's the Gospel reading from the lectionary, which is Luke chapter 12, verses 13 to 21. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Friend, who set me to be a judge and arbiter over you?" And he said to them, "Take care. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly. And he thought to himself, "What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have an ample supply of goods laid up for many years. Eat, relax, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be?' So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God." Now, this is the first part of a longer section on trust, on money, and on our possessions. And you can just continue reading on from verse 22 to see a very familiar discourse. We moved out of the parsonage at Opawa almost a year ago into our own home. The first time in 35 years. Now, I'm of retirement age and I have no intent of retiring, certainly not at this stage. And I have to say that over the last few years, I have been worried a little bit about where we'd live. We had a small property in an area of the country which was of low value, where we knew nobody and probably weren't going to live. And I kind of wondered if we'd end our days in a council flat somewhere. I thought, as long as it's warm and dry and they can cart me out in a pine box at the end, I guess that'll be okay. And as I'd pray about it, I'd always had a sense of, Andrew, let me worry about it. It's going to be fine. But I'd wondered really if I was just kidding myself, just talking to myself to make me feel good. And yet here we are, living in what I think is it's a lovely house. It's a large house in Lincoln. It's not new, but it very much suits our needs. And I love living here, and I have a profound sense of privilege. I have to pinch myself and think, oh, how did this happen? And yet here we are. As I said, I used to pray, and I would from time to time just state my concern to the Lord, and always had this sense of assurance that it will be okay. And so far it seems to be working out. Yet the truth is, we have a significant mortgage, and although we can see a pathway where ultimately it will be paid off, there's something now new for me to be concerned about. And I realize that the challenge still exists. The challenge to trust God, to trust the Lord, that the Lord who has provided can work these things out. The thing is that I don't want the issue of the mortgage and of how we're going to pay for it to be the center of my life. Don't want it to be the most important thing. And I kind of sense that there's a bit in this for me of what Jesus is talking about. He's talking about our priorities. He's talking about our focus of what we're doing in life and why we're here. Now, part of the key is the opening words. He says, take care, or watch out, or be on your guard. And then he goes on, and be on your guard. So there's two parts of warning here. There's a kind of sense of vigilance which we're being invited into. And I don't think this is a one-off thing. This is kind of a continuous thing that he's inviting us to be aware of. He says, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Now, he starts with the strong element of warning in response to a question that on the surface seems fair enough. There's a man in his audience who says to Jesus, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me. Now all sorts of questions arise. Is he being cheated by his brother? Or is he not happy with the legal way in which things have been sorted out? For example, if there's only two of them, two sons, the way that the law was set up, it would mean that if he were the younger brother, his elder brother would get twice as much. The elder brother got the elder son's portion. He got two, and the younger one only got one. And he may have thought this was very, very unfair, and is appealing to Jesus for someone who'll agree with him. We don't know any of this. We don't. We're just not told. And Jesus doesn't engage. He's not getting involved in a family dispute. But he's pointing to a deeper concern of where our priorities are, of where an obsession with wealth will likely lead us. Jesus recognizes the trap of wealth, how it can so easily, so readily, and so subtly distract us from the most important things in life. If we're not careful, we can be absorbed with our own need for financial and material security. Hence he tells the parable of the rich man. This man has given his whole life to accumulation. He's given his life to a sense of, I need to be secure, I need to provide for myself and for my successors. But Jesus asks a more fundamental question. What is your life about? What's the point of it all? Why are we here? Why are you here? Why am I here? Is it just to accumulate stuff? Because if we're not asking that question, we're likely to be slipping into the default setting of seeking simply to secure our security, to hedge our future against possible misfortune, because none of us know what tomorrow brings. Or perhaps even to elevate our status as somebody. Once we start to focus on material security, my observation is enough is never enough. It just becomes something that consumes people, and they become more voracious and more committed to it. I've seen a lot of it, and you will have as well. We have taken our eye off the ball in a sense of purpose, the purpose for our existence. When we start obsessing about our financial, our material security. And the problem with it is that underneath it all, it implies ultimately an unwillingness to trust. An unwillingness to trust God who calls us. An unwillingness to allow God to provide for us and for our needs. Our obsession with accumulating stuff, really feeds into this unwillingness, our inability to trust God. Now, the truth is that I have quite a lot of stuff. An unpacked garage, nearly after 12 months, will show you that I also struggle to throw stuff away. As I've admitted before, I'm a bit of a hoarder. Yet I know that when push comes to shove, it doesn't have a strong hold on me. I can let it go. It's just stuff. It's not that important. And Jesus invites us, I want to suggest, to see our stuff at the best as an aid to our ministry and mission. It's not the point of it. We're invited to trust God to meet our needs. And this passage that follows this one, the bit that we're reading today, goes onto this in some detail. Jesus is concerned that our lives don't get tied up with the business of accumulation. That these things don't become the main thing in our lives. You'll have heard me say before, if you've listened to me for any length of time, I've referenced that great movie of great theological insight, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. And there's a line in that I just keep coming back to, and I'm going to repeat it again today. This hotel is a rundown hotel in some large Indian city, and it's run by a hapless young man as a manager, but he's full of optimism. And he has a line, and he says, it'll all work out in the end. And if it hasn't worked out, it's not yet the end. And I kind of think there's an element of truth to it. Observably, in most situations that, as I've walked through the years of my life, I've noticed that there's an element of truth about this, particularly if we're willing to trust God, that in a sense, it kind of works out in the end. So we're invited to trust God, to apply ourselves to whatever it is the Lord has put in front of us, whatever tasks we sense the Lord has called us to engage with, and trust our future into His hands. God bless you.